Hey guys, good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, January 5th. It is 6:27 right now. We got market opening up shortly in about 3 minutes. Um, yeah, so a lot of you guys know what happened over the weekend with Venezuela. So we'll see what happens at the market as we open. The entire market's pretty much affected by it, specifically, gold, gas stocks, stuff like that. Um, But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. So, guys, just another reminder, Cody Kai Capital is registered with the CFTC and NFA as a commodity trading advisor, CTA. Futures trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. You can lose more than your initial investment. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This stream is only for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing shown or discussed is a solicitation to buy or sell any futures contracts or to participate in any trading program. Um, I may hold positions in the market as discussed, but my views may change at any time based on the market conditions. If hypothetical or back-tested results appear during the stream, they have significant limitations and do not represent actual trading. So there goes a disclaimer right there, guys. I have to put this disclaimer up because I am registered with the CFTC and NFA as a professional trader. So I just have to let you guys know that trading is risky and you guys should be doing your own due diligence with your trading. So, anyways, guys, if you guys are looking to take the breakout here on open, the breakout is going to be against momentum. So right now we currently have a bullish momentum signal here. So with that being the case, looks like the breakout for today is going to be a sell. If anybody is looking to take that, I think Steven had messaged me. We'll check that later. Anyways, look at the looking at the daily bias for today. So market is neutral to cautiously bullish. I think this is correct. With what happened in Venezuela, it's as much as people think it causes uncertainty, it actually makes the US look strong, right? Because the US does what it wants to do. So with that being the case, US stocks are probably going to rise along with gas specific stocks like Chevron and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens here in a few guys, but yeah, market's gonna open up shortly in a few moments here, 20 seconds till market open. Let's see who's here so far. Morning Mendez, morning Daniel, morning Masij, morning Ben, morning Karen, morning Lila, morning Maria, morning CJ, morning everybody. So it looks like majority of you guys are here, so we're ready to kick this off. We got market opening up in about 5 seconds. So market is opening up in four, three, two, one, and market is now open. So let's see what happens here. Um, Looks like price is kind of just going back and forth. Our first target entry is not for like another 40 minutes or so. So we'll see what happens here. So like I mentioned earlier, guys, I said price was likely to be bullish because what happened over the weekend was strong for the US economy in a sense. Even if we go to war or if anything happens, it's good for the US because it shows that the US is in control and we're in power. So that being the case right here, price did push up like we kind of discussed. If you guys were looking to take the breakout for today, the breakout for today was actually a buy, it looks like, because the sell signal here did close. And since this was against momentum, it was a buy. So if you guys took the breakout on open, it's right there. It's pushing up in profit, and it looks like it already hit target. So if you guys are not familiar with like how to apply the against momentum trades, I mean, obviously I don't take them, but right here we had a sell momentum. Earlier when I was talking about it, we didn't have the sell momentum yet, but the sell momentum did come up at 628. So with that being the case and the trade being against momentum, this was going to be a buy here for the breakout. So it did push up right there. It looks like some of you guys here did take that trade there. And we'll follow on with the next possible entries here. So the next possible entry is going to be at 646. It's going to be against momentum. And we'll see what happens there. It's not going to be a target entry. It's just a listed entry. So market's pretty much doing exactly what we talked about, right? We discussed this earlier. We mentioned looking at the daily bias for today. It said neutral to cautiously bullish. That's exactly what happened. Price did push up. We did talk about how like the things that happened in Venezuela would cause market to go up regarding any type of market actually. With regard to the Dow, not really Nasdaq because there's no gas stocks in Nasdaq, but the Dow, ES, specific gas stocks, crude oil, gold, etc. Um, it went up as expected. So here we go as price continues to climb up higher. The next entry is going to be at 646. It's going to be against momentum. It is a listed entry, not a target entry, and it is against momentum. So not specifically one that I'd be looking to take, but one that we'll be looking at just to kind of see where price ends up going. So I'm going to put this over here in the notes. If you guys are looking at the spreadsheet, I just updated it. I put that as a win for 629 against momentum for a buy. Not listed as an entry or documented, but just in the notes because we're not documenting the against. For our target entry, so here are the statistics for our target entry. I'm not going to say the specific time. If you guys have access to the algo, or if you guys have access to the premium on Discord, just go over here to algo. I posted the list of trades right there, and you guys know exactly which one I'm talking about. So looking at this here, it has a max equity drawdown of 6%, win rate of 55%, profit factor of 2.44. Where it becomes really important is using the rolling analysis, right? So I have a 20 trade sample right here, I have a 40 trade sample right here, and I have a 60 trade sample right here. So looking at the same trade, typically when edge decays, it typically goes lower, right? So with that being the case, you want to see it go lower, but you don't want to see it go too low. So going from the 20 trade sample right here to the 40, you can see over here from the 40 trade sample, the max equity drawdown, we're going to kind of ignore this a little bit because this is a bigger sample size. But with that being the case, we're going to look over here at the win rate. So the win rate just deteriorated about 5%, which is not a lot, right? That's perfectly fine. Win rate deteriorated 5%, so that's okay. And then the profit factor only deteriorated maybe like a 0.4, right? Because it was a 0.24 here, 2.444, and over here on the 40 trade sample is at 2.003. So this shows that it's decaying effectively. Like it's, the strategy is not going to be super profitable all year round, every single day, every single week, etc. It's going to kind of deteriorate over time. So with it being the case right here, it showed that it's actually an upwards scale because previously it was kind of back and forth. It wasn't really so hot right here around this period because the market goes through different market regimes, but it started to pick up. So it was a little slow over here in November, and it started to pick up here on December 10th, and that's where the statistics for this year show that it's very consistent. Now, going back even further to the 60 trade sample, you can see here it drops even more, right? Not a lot, but it drops even more, which is normal. So right here, it goes from a 55 or 50% probability, or yeah, basically win rate probability 50%, profit factor is 2.003, and then we go over here to the 60 and it drops down to 43.33. The main thing that we want to look at here is that the profitability is still above break even, right? Break even is 33%. So right here, there's still a 13 point, or basically a 10.33 edge with a 60 trade sample, and the profit factor is still above one point. So with this right here, you can see this is a pretty normal, I guess, equity curve in a sense, where if we go backwards, it started right here where this specific entry just wasn't very consistent in October into November, and then it started being consistent right here in December. So it went from a 1.4 profit factor to a 2.03 profit factor to a now 2.4. So with that being the case, this is going to be my target entry. I'm not going to say the time, but if you guys do have access to it, you guys know what we're waiting for. So again, that's going to be our entry for today. And then there's going to be one following it right after. So they're both high enough where they kind of line up with it together. Let's see. Daniel said, might sit out today, not messing with those 100-point candles. I know, right? This right here was a 100-point candle right there. The one next to it was again another 100-point candle. This was expected, right? We had something big happen over the weekend in Venezuela. If you guys are not familiar with what happened, you guys can just pull up any news source. Let's pull up BizTalk. So I mean, everything here is pretty much. So I think this is the main thing because his court date is today, right? So this is what's gonna like kind of throw things off a little bit. So Maduro, who was Venezuela's president, basically the U.S. kidnapped him in a sense. They invaded Venezuela, kidnapped him and his wife, and he's going to be in court today. So this is going to change a lot of things. So the reason why this is important is because there's a lot of factors here, right? One factor is that the US is showing power by going into another country and just taking the president like that, right? Like the US is basically showing like we can do whatever we want and we're going to do it. So with that being the case, China and Russia are demanding that the US return the Venezuelan president, right? Which is not going to happen, obviously. Um, so that's going to cause turmoil. Like it's just global turmoil, right? People are scared of the US because you know, Putin might be next. Might invade Russia and take Putin, or go to China and take their president. So with that being the case, that's why there's a lot of uncertainty in the market for the most part, but it gives US power. The other thing is the oil reserves in Venezuela, right? If you guys are not familiar with this stuff, it's completely fine. These are just fundamentals that I'm just familiar with because I've been following the news. So the oil reserves, the other countries are kind of scared of the US. They're kind of worried that the US can do this to anybody, and stuff like that. So like you'll see, for in general, I'm going to see the market go up. I'm not really going to see it come down. The only way I'll see the market come down really is if there's some sort of response to what happened in Venezuela, right? If Russia does something or China does something and they impose tariffs to stop the US from doing stuff like this, then yeah, you'll see the market kind of come down. But if nobody does anything, the market's typically going to keep pushing up higher and higher and higher. So we'll see. I mean, let's just take a look at other assets. So this is, I mean, you guys can see the big difference here, right? Flat market here, pre-market, and then huge spike of volatility right here as market opened up. Let's take a look at gold. So gold over here, when stuff happened over the weekend, it started going up, right? So like basically from Friday, it happened on Saturday or Friday morning or Saturday morning. It went up pretty nicely like over the weekend. And then now it's starting to sell off a little bit, but it's probably going to push back up. The other thing that pushed up was probably crude oil. Yeah, you can see crude oil over here. It's pretty obvious, right? Huge bullish push to the upside from today because prices are going up. So the initial push right here over the weekend, then price kind of sold off for a little bit, then it came right back up. Like I mentioned, all these assets are going to move up. If you look at ES, same thing, big bullish push right there. NQ is going to be unaffected because NQ is tech stocks, and you're not really going to see much of it move. So NQ over here, not really much of a movement there because there's no gas stocks in NQ. It's all tech stocks. So again, you guys don't need to know this stuff, but I think it's good to have an idea of like what's happening and why the market's going up, right? Because this isn't random. Market's not going up because today's Monday. Market's going up because of what happened over the weekend. So this is why technical analysis isn't where it is not the end all be all, right? You can have the best technical analysis in the world. If you don't know something's going on in the world, with regard to fundamentals, you could be like you could be in a tight spot. So. All right, anyways, we don't have anything here right now. The uh the next listed entry is at 646. That's gonna be against momentum. It's for a buy. I don't know if price is gonna pull back, so I don't know if we're gonna have anything like that. In order for us to have that entry there, price would have to pull back with a sell signal and then continuation back up, right? Which I don't know if we're gonna have that pullback here. This also goes hand in hand with our entry later today. So our actual target entries for a sell. I don't know if we're gonna get that. Because like I said, due to the fundamentals, price is likely to keep pushing up. Unless we start to get, distribution of profits, right? If people start to sell off just to take profit, then yeah, we can probably see it drop a little bit, maybe back to open, or not even back to open, maybe close to like halfway. So opening prices down here, that's a lot. So market opened up, we're up 400 points. It's a lot. So if it does retrace back down, it'll probably drop down maybe 200 points. So if you get a retracement, it'll probably happen to here and then probably correction back up. Basically a head and shoulders, right? So we'll see what happens. I don't know if we're gonna have an entry today, guys, to be honest. And now that I've looked at it, I didn't realize this thing pushed up almost 400, 500 points. That's a big push to the upside. You can see over here from my criteria, very strong bullish across the board. 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 30, whatever it is, everything here is bullish. Look at this candle in the 1 hour. Look how crazy that candle looks. Candle's huge. 400 or 500 point candle right there. 500 point candle. Massive. Should have taken a breakout today. I knew it was going to be bullish, but I got to stick to my game plan. One trade a day based on the algo. But I mean, the analysis played out perfect. All right, let's see. Masich had bought those calls on Chevron as soon as they got into the Venezuela or airspace. Nice. Would have done the same thing. Should have flown. Let's see, Chevron. It's CHV, right? I believe so. I mean, it shot up over like, the crazy thing is it already went up, or no, this is from today. Yeah, so it did shoot up. Yeah, it went from, yeah, that's a huge gain right there. So from Friday up until today, it jumped up almost $15. Huge, huge push to the upside right there for Chevron. It's probably gonna sell off for a little bit, but it'll probably push up even higher. There's a couple different gas stocks. I mean, you can just, if you guys search up gas stocks that are affected by Venezuela, there's like four or five of them. Not just gas stocks, but there's other like related stocks. I'm curious for Visa. So I'm holding Visa. Okay. Visa's up right here too, because I've been holding Visa for a while when it kind of slumped a little bit. I bought it during earnings season a while back, and I'm trying to get back out. So I think I'll probably be getting out of this pretty soon. You guys can see the big spike right here. There's a couple different stocks. I mean, if you look up, if you guys are curious, like what stocks are going to be affected by the Venezuela thing, there's like a handful of stocks. I just saw them all over the weekend. I did my own research. If you guys ha are, yeah, if you guys want a prompt, I have a prompt for stocks. If you guys are looking for stocks, I'm looking for like typically when I trade stocks, I look for stuff that's safe and they're like likely have like good growth. So I have a pretty detailed prompt for stocks. If you guys are looking for specific stocks to trade in, because I do trade stocks myself, but I only do it for long term. The future stuff is what I do short term, and the long term stuff is for stocks. 'Cause I don't like to touch it. I like to just leave it there and it just kind of sits and it just develops and it makes profit. And I just take profit when it reaches where it needs to be. But that's like more of the swing type stuff. Yeah, let me see. I think I have a list. Let me see if I have my list here. Mm, yeah, so there's a couple. So I'll just list them. So Microsoft is one, Alphabet, Google, Visa, MasterCard, Costco, ASML, Intuit, Eli Lilly. That's about it. Like the top eight stocks that I'm looking to buy dips on. I think they're all doing good too. So let's see. So I'm waiting for the dips on these. Microsoft. Yeah, so I should have bought right here, but I wasn't paying attention to this because it was dropped down a little bit. So I pretty much do my stock analysis on over the weekend, and then on Monday I look for my entries. I'll probably come back to take a look at Microsoft a little later. That's the first one. Google's the other one. Yeah, so I'd be looking to buy the dips here. See, these are all dipping. Google dip right here. You could probably buy, or if, these are expensive stocks. So these are like mostly mega caps. I already looked at Visa, Master. I don't have any MasterCard, but I'm looking at maybe. So basically, what I have is I have about like 20 to 40,000 in capital for stocks, and I just buy dips and I hold on to them. MasterCard over here hasn't dropped yet. I'm just gonna take a quick look to see which ones I'm planning on. Costco's one of them, hasn't really dipped yet. Hasn't really dipped yet. This hasn't really dipped yet. So there's only two stocks here that have really dipped, and I'm looking to maybe get into to hold on to for a while. I typically into it right here, so I'll probably buy some into it as well. So yeah, out of the stocks I just looked at, basically Microsoft, Google, and Intuit. Those are the three stocks that I'll probably be looking to buy the dip on, and I'm gonna hold on to it for like maybe a couple of days, if not a couple weeks, and then I sell off and I do the same thing, just rinse and repeat. Let's see. Lila said this is concerning. This is what Russia did to Ukraine. Yeah, exactly. I know it's ironic, right? Like Russia and China are telling the US to stop what they're doing, but they do the same thing to all these other countries, specifically Russia. Um, let's see. I think there was an MPSV2 right here that Paul and Miss were looking at. So yeah, there's an MPSV2 which came up right here, guys. Buy signal, retracement, continuation right there. Miss and Paul. So there's another. I was looking at the charts yesterday. There was another way that I started to see how to apply the MPSV2. Um, the other way, and this would probably be the MPSV3, right? Because it's another version. So see how there's a buy signal here, there's a retracement. What I would do is I would just place a limit order or whatever, just pending order waiting right there to get filled, right? I would just put my limit order. Obviously, you'd have to base it off the ATR. So I'd probably put it instead of 60/30, it'd probably be more like an 80/40 or even higher. Maybe be like a 50 to 100 because the volatility is so high. But like, if you guys don't want to wait for the candle to close, what I was doing and what I noticed is if you're looking for an MPSV2, look for price to push up. The retracement candle right here, which should be the red one, you can just put your limit order at the high of that candle. So when it pushes up, it just automatically fills and then it goes into target. So if you guys want to look at that, that's something to maybe incorporate for your MPSV2s. I think this is an easier way of doing it. The only problem where this becomes an issue is where price is choppy, right? But the thing is, when you're taking MPS V2, you're taking it when the market is not choppy anyway, so like it shouldn't be a problem. But that's one way to do it where you don't have to like worry for the candle to close. Because sometimes you're like waiting for this candle to close and it's like kind of jumpy, right? It's just kind of bouncing back and forth. If you just put your limit order right there, or your pending order, or your stop order, whatever, maybe a pending order of some sort, it would just fill your order and then you would just be in it already. You might not get great entry, but sometimes if this would push up and close up here, you'd actually get better entry because you get in before it. So just something to keep in mind for those of you who like to apply my MPS V2 strategy. It's a great strategy, It's something that I think is useful. So we had our second entry over here at 646, guys. There was no entry there. It was an against momentum for a set for a buy. We already in momentum for a buy, so there's no entry there. Um, I don't think we're gonna have an entry today, guys, unfortunately, for our target entry. It's gonna come up in a few in about 10 minutes. I don't know if price is gonna start turning the other way, but it's not looking like it. It looks like we're going to stay pretty bullish. Let's see. Dijon said I'd actually be interested in seeing them take Putin just for shits and giggles. I know it'd be interesting, right? But it's not going to happen. There's no way that Russia would let that happen, right? Russia is so big of a country. Like, in order for the US to even enter Russia, it's just impossible. It's just, it's such a big country that in order for the US to really even sneak in, it's kind of crazy how, if you guys have read the articles and the stuff about like how the US captured the Venezuelan president, they had like CIA operatives that were in there for a while, for like months, and they were just kind of tracking the president's like his moves. So they knew exactly where he was, they knew where he was sleeping. It was such a like elaborate kidnapping that like it's crazy. Because it happened so smoothly, right? They showed up at like 2 a.m. They kidnapped him, took him, brought him back to the US just like that. Like nothing happened. It was crazy when I woke up on Saturday morning. I was like, wow, it's crazy that this happened. All the breaking news started coming out um, about what happened, and it's like nobody would have thought that would have happened. It's like everyone wakes up on Saturday like, oh, Venezuela is getting taken over like that. All right, anyways, guys, looks like we might have the entry here. So I'm looking over here at the entries. Well, our target entries. So we do have the sell signal there. It looks like we might have an entry here. What I'm going to look for is a flickering momentum, right? I think that's going to be the key thing here to pay attention to. If we get a flickering momentum back to the upside, obviously no entry there. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think as we get closer to our target entry for the day, there's going to be flickering momentum. This could work out in our favor though, because there's a lot of space here for price to retrace back down, right? Because this is a take profit situation right here where people are starting to take their profits. Price pushed up. Now people are starting to sell off, take their profits. Price will come down maybe halfway before it ends up coming right back up, right? Basically a head and shoulders pattern. That could maybe be the case, but the other thing here is price may just start coming back up right now. So I'll be paying attention to the the flickering momentum here just in case. CJ mentioned the price is at the all-time high. Yeah, I can see that. We are at the all-time high now. Nice. Okay, yeah. So Masich does that already with the pending order. Yeah, I figured you were probably doing that. Okay, I think we're gonna get a pending momentum back up right now. You guys can see the big bullish candle here. This is pretty much gonna invalidate our entry, which is perfectly fine. It's what we expected. Um, but we'll see what happens in a few. So I'm not gonna count it out just yet. Yeah, Daniel's a small group of Delta can get a lot done, a lot of things done. Yeah, no, exactly. But the thing is, they have the intelligence already, right? So, like you mentioned, like Daniel mentioned, the small team of Delta. Yeah, they can get a lot done as long as they have the intelligence and they know exactly where to go. It was just really interesting to see that they've been planning this forever, and it just happened in an instant like that. I'm like curious what's going to happen next now, right? Because I feel like the U.S. feels unstoppable at a point where like they're just going to go and overtake a bunch of other places now. I mean, they probably won't, but they can. And I think that's why a lot of these other countries are scared, right? Because a lot of people have been like, or like a lot of these other countries, they've been like they've kind of been adamant against the US, right? Because the US is always demanding things and they're just not listening. It's like it's a different presidency. With Trump being president, a lot of stuff's getting done in a sense where it's more of a action now, ask questions later type thing, which is kind of feels like we're like in some type of like action movie or something like that. Or like a movie where stuff like this happens. Like you wouldn't really see anything like this happen under a different presidency. Like you'd never see this happen under Biden, probably never see this happen under Obama. The only other president that I could see this happening would be with Bush, which is another Republican. And this is politics aside, it's just kind of interesting to see how things kind of play out around now. There's just, I mean, so before Trump was president, we were like, okay, we're gonna be excited with all this volatility, right? We're like, okay, it's gonna be great because Trump's gonna be doing crazy stuff. It's not as crazy as his first presidency, but he's actually taking a lot of action on a lot of things that he said he was gonna do. Like the tariffs, we never expected the tariff situation to ever happen. And what happened over the weekend, that too. And I'm just like, we got a couple more years of this. I wonder what's gonna happen over the next couple months, if not next couple years. Yeah, Mesicito, Venezuela has no military pretty much. It was not a hard operation. Yeah, exactly. They just went in, took, and pulled right back out. Lila said Greenland is on the list. Mesicito can't do Greenland though because Europe and Denmark won't let him. He had an excuse for Venezuela. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mesich. Roland is asking TP stop loss for MPSV2 6032. Yeah. Right now, for the most part, so you can either do a 60-30 Roland or you can base it off the ATR, right? Because the volatility is a little higher. So if that's the case with the volatility, you can always make it a little higher if you just want to be safer in a sense. Because if the volatility is a little higher like that, you should have no problem hitting an 80-40, right? Because it's going to hit 80 points. I mean, but if you want to do 60-30, that also works. There's no right or wrong way, really. It's just up to your own preference. Ideally, I would go with the higher stop loss because you want to just kind of give yourself some leeway, but um, not completely necessary. All right, guys. So looking over here at the entry, we're not going to have an entry for our target. Here, I'll just put the list of trades here. There's just not going to be any target entries here. The reason for that's because we're looking for a sell here, but we have a buy signal which just came up. And with that being the case, there's obviously just going to be no entry. I'm sticking to my game plan, guys. One trade a day, just sticking to the algo entries. Um, and fortunately, but unfortunately, we don't have an entry for today. So here's my list. We had the breakout over here, which happened at 629. This was against momentum, max drawdown of 9%, weighted average of 70, overall probability of 65, buys at 75, sells at 50, profit factor is 2.718. This right here was a win. So we had one win right there at 720 or 629. The next listed entry was right here at 646, but unfortunately there was no entry there, right? So that was against momentum for a buy. The reason why there was no entry is because we already had a buy momentum here. So we couldn't go against momentum in a sense. Right here at 658, this is our first target entry. This is what I have the statistics down here for. It has a max drawdown of 6%, weighted average of 56.7, overall probability of 55, buys at 53, sells at 57, profit factor of 2.444 for a sell. The reason why we're not going to have an entry here at 640 or 658 is because we have a buy momentum right there, right? So in order for us to take a sell right here, this is with momentum, we would need to have a sell momentum to push price down. But because we don't have that, there's going to be no entry there. So no entry, and then no entry, of course, for 659. I mean, which is all good. I was kind of not expecting to get an entry today anyways. It was I mean, it's a crazy volatile market right now. Yeah, Dejan said as long as I can make money alongside them. Yeah, that's a key thing, right, Dejan? As long as we can make money in this market, I'm perfectly fine with whatever's going on. Well, actually, I'm not perfectly fine with whatever's going on, but in a sense, I'm okay with what's causing the volatility in the market. I mean, realistically, what happened in Venezuela is it was a good thing, right? It was a dictatorship basically happening over there in a sense. Um, or I mean, I don't know. How true is that stuff that Maduro has fixed the election? I don't know. I don't know much about Venezuela, but yeah. Anyways, there's nothing here right now, guys. If you guys are looking to take an entry, this would be, I mean, if you wanted to take it for a buy, you could still take the entry here. So we have it listed right here. I mean, I wouldn't take it, of course, because I'm going off my statistics, but if you wanted to go with momentum, this technically still would be an entry. But let me check the chat real quick, and then I'll explain to you guys why I'm sticking to my game plan. Um, let's see. Lila said Project 25 is real, worth a read. As traders, we have to know what's going on in the world. How many contracts on your one trade? So for myself, I'm doing 10 contracts on my personal account, Lila. I'm not sure what you're doing with yours or if you have anything specific, but I'm doing 10 contracts for mine. I'm not sure if the question was towards me or towards some Siege or anybody else, but I'm doing 10 contracts per trade for for my own personal account. Let's see, Brock. Hey, Brock. Brock, happy New Year's to all of you here at Cody Kai team. Good to be able to join y'all. Oh yeah, no, definitely. We haven't seen you in a while, Brock. The MPS V2 has been hitting. I don't know if you've been taking it, but everyone here has been taking it. It's been hitting pretty often. Um, yeah, if you guys wanted to take the MPS V2 again, there'd be another one setting up right here, possibly. Let's clean this up a little bit. So there's no entry here for 658, 659. Let's check this set. So this 716 entry, let me just put this up real quick because this was the actual, if you were going off the basic or the traditional criteria for our entry, the 716 is actually the entry which would have came up for today. So let me just put this up real quick. And I'll explain why this one was supposed to be the actual target entry. I'm not taking it, but and I'll show you exactly why I'm not taking it as well. So okay, let's take a look at this 716 entry. So the 716 entry right here, this is with momentum, max equity drawdown of 7%, weighted average of 60%, 63%, overall probability of 55, buys at 71 and sells at 46, profit factor of 2.426. So if you guys look at the numbers over here, the 716 is actually the target entry for the day. So if you guys want to take this, I mean, feel free to take it. There's also another entry here, which is coming up at 7:02. If you guys remember, we talked about this yesterday. This is considered a this is considered like one of the unicorn entries. It's a different TP stop loss 40/20. So let's take a look at that first. Let me just show you guys that one. I was a little tempted to take this, but because the volatility is so high, I'm not really tempted to take it anymore. Actually, the numbers here aren't that good. Is it against momentum? Hmm. The numbers here actually changed a bit. Let me check real quick. Oh, never mind. That's why. 40/20. Okay, so here, let's just take a look at this before we look at that 716 entry. If you guys want to take this, I mean, feel free. I think the volatility is a little too high right now, so it's not one of those trades that I would really be looking to get into because I would be worried that I'd get stopped out if price does spike down even just a little bit. Because a 20-point stop loss, I don't know if that'll be able to survive anything here if it pulls back even just a little. So let's take a look. This is the entry right here. It's currently running in profit. So see how tight this is? It's a little too tight for me. But this entry right here at 702, this here has really, really good statistics long term. Doesn't win every single trade, but looking at the statistics over here, so let's just not even, this is probably going to hit. It's almost there. 40 points isn't that far out. The only thing I'd be worried about is a stop loss, and it's going to hit right there. Almost there, full TP. Yeah. So this is like one of those entries that works good like always. And the reason for that is let's take a look at the numbers that I just showed you. So max equity drawdown is 3%. This means that it only loses maybe 1.5 time max at a time. If you look over here at the equity chart, it doesn't really lose very much, right? The win rate for this is 70%. That's very high for a 1 to 2 risk reward strategy. Profit factor is 4.4. Now looking over here at the 40 point or 40 trade sample, this is where it becomes really interesting because at the 40 trade sample, it goes down to 55% probability, which is not bad. This is still really good. And the profit factor is still really good too. It's 2.2. But here's where it becomes really interesting. If you go down to the 60, usually the edge deteriorates, right? It decays from higher, from like basically 20 to 40 to 60. It's supposed to go lower and lower. But what happens here at the 60 is that it actually goes higher, which is it's not unusual, but it's like this is one of those things that you don't really see very often. So the higher the sample size, the better the statistics, right? So it goes from 40, so it drops from 70% to 50%, 55%, and then it goes up to 60% with a bigger sample size. So this shows that this is a very, very consistent strategy long term. It has a max equity drawdown of almost 6%. So this means that it only goes into three back-to-back losses before it goes into a heavy win streak. So the profit factor here for 60 trades is 2.5, which is really high. So, I mean, this over here, if the ATR wasn't so high right now, this is a trade that I would have been looking to get into. But because the ATR is so high, I would be worried that with such a tight stop loss, that it would stop it out too early. So this one over here is something to maybe look out for. I'm gonna have to do a deeper research on to see like if there's any more of these unicorn type entries. This is the only one I've seen so far where if you go farther back into a sample, the trade actually does better long term. So if you guys are curious and you guys want to take a look at, these types of entries, when you're doing a rolling sample size, look at the longest. So if the farther one is actually better than the middle one, then this type of trade here is it's the type of trade that doesn't show up very often. It just shows what this indicates is that this strategy has a very um long half-life. Basically, it has a long lifespan because you can see over here that, within 60 trades, which is 60 trading days, this is almost, I think, how many days is that? So let's see, 60 times 5 or divided by 5, divided by 4. So basically over a 3 to 4 month period, this made 90% if you took the 702 entry every single day for like 60 days. So yeah, again, if you guys want to go back and figure out, or not figure out, but if you guys want to go and kind of dig deep and see which times have like really good entry points. Um, do a rolling sample, 20 sample, 40 sample, 60 sample. If the 60 sample is better than the 40 sample, this indicates that okay, this strategy actually has a very long lifespan, right? Because it shows that for 4 months, it's actually really, really profitable. I mean, it's a big jump, right? From like, so it has basically a 40% gain monthly and then a 48% gain on like 2 or 3 months. But then on a 3 to 4 month period, it has actually more. So, all right, with that being the case, we have the other entry coming up right here at 716. I'll put this back up. Let's see questions over here from Justice. Justice says 4020. Yeah, that is correct, Justice, 4020. So if you want to take a look at that, um, you can pull it up on yours. All right, let's pull up the 716 one. So 4020 used to be our initial TP stop loss that we used before. We changed it because the volatility was a little high. But as we go into the new year, I mean, 4020 might be the next move. Well, we'll see. If I don't get any more entries here for 76 for 6030, then we might shift down to 4020. It kind of depends on what the statistics are giving us. Anyways, here's the entry at 716. So we just talked about this earlier. This here, if you're using the normal criteria for target entry, this would meet the criteria, right? Because this has under a 10% max equity drawdown. It has a weighted average of over 60%, overall average of 50%, and the profit factor is 2.426. The reason why we decided not to take this, or why I decided not to take this, is let's look at the rolling sample here, and I'll show you that this is not a good strategy long term. So right here for the 20 trade sample, it has a 7% max equity drawdown. It has a 55% win rate. And it has a profit factor of 2.4. This is great, right, for 20 trade sample. Now looking over here at the 40 trade sample, this is where it starts to die down really quickly. So you can see this is a big drop, right, from 55% to now 35%. This specific entry is barely profitable in a sense, right? Because in order for you to be profitable, it needs to be above 33%. It's at 35%. So if you're to factor in slippage, there's different factors here. This is not a good entry to be looking at. And also looking at the max equity drawdown, it has 42%. This means that it goes through some massive drawdown before it comes back up. So this being the case over here, this is why I decided not to take the trade. So this is like the main factor going from the 20 to the 40 trade sample. This is the big jump. But now going down to the 60 trade sample, this strategy is it's barely at break even. So you can see over here it's at 33% and the profit factor is under 1. So this just shows us that okay, this entry at 716 is good for right now, but it's more of a seasonal entry. So it's only good for right now, but it's not good long term. And that's why I decided not to take that trade there. If you guys want to take it, you can still take it. I mean, looking over here at the statistics, it's not necessarily a horrible trade, but if you look at it long term, it just shows that there's just points in time where it works really well, and then there's points in time where it doesn't, right? Where like it really doesn't. So you can see it goes through some massive drawdown right here. And that's why looking at the statistics, this isn't really a good trade to take on a consistent basis. Like, yeah, you might get lucky taking it right now, but for the most part, it's not consistent enough for me to want to put my risk on that specific trade. And that's why we chose the 658, 659 over the 716, even though the criteria is met for the 20 trade sample. So we'll follow it here if you guys want to take it. I mean, feel free to take it at your own risk, but with that being said, I'm going based off the statistics here and the probabilities. Probabilities are just not very high for the 716. Okay, let's see. Question from iPhone. iPhone said, why choose between the two with both 2040 and 3060? We have more options. Um, I mean, yeah, you could if you wanted to. Thing is, I'm trading like 70 accounts, so I can't change. It's a big difference, right? A 20 point stop loss to a 30. Because so let me just show you the difference in risk. I mean, for me, I'm using a fixed, like I'm trading so many accounts that we're using fixed contract sizes. So I mean, iPhone, let's see. So I'm doing 200 contracts, right? 5 times 10. So I basically have 10,000 in real money, right? This isn't prop money. This is real money that's going to risk if I let the trade run further or if let the trade run less. So in order for me to make those changes, I mean, it's just not possible because I'd have to go in and change all the different accounts into like imagine going to one, like there's like 70 accounts here, right? And you're just going to one and you're changing every single one to a contract size different. I can't make the changes like that quickly. So this is the difference between doing a 20-point stop loss with a 30. That's why I can't really make the changes there. And the thing with the 20 is that it's too tight, right? Like I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, this trade worked, but if it didn't work, it would go to your stop loss very quickly. So for me personally, I mean, if you want to change, if you want to do both, feel free to do both. But for me personally, I'm just giving you my situation. I can't change TP stop loss or like that very quickly because I have so many accounts that I'm trading. Um, Yeah, I mean that's the main reason for me. If I wasn't trading this many accounts, then yes, I would trade different assets and I would trade different TP stop losses. And I would like if I just had one account, I'm like, okay, I'll just change the contract size on that one account. Um, I would do that, of course, right? Because the algo works well on a lot of different assets. The only thing that we have a problem with is really the is my ability to change all of them at once because every account size is different, and yeah, it's just not possible for me specifically. But yeah, no, I mean, if you want to do that, feel free. The thing is, you'd have to run the data on both of those too, right? Like this takes me about an hour to do the data for the 60/30. For me to include this 40/20, that's like another hour. To me to include another asset, that's like another hour, 2 hours. So you can see how it kind of digs into my ability to have that data there. Masij has the ability to run the the Chrome extension. The only problem is that the Chrome extension still takes like an hour or 2 hours. So I just do it by hand and it goes by quicker. And on top of that, I'm able to like do the rolling analysis as well. So there's nothing wrong with using the Chrome extension. It's just for me. I like to analyze as I go. Like for example here, like I already analyzed these. So I was able to choose these two over this one. Oh wow, 15 minutes. Okay, Masij, I'll try it out later. Perfect. Yeah, no, I think that was the main downside for me. It was just it took a while for me to do it. That's why I just never really did it. Because I was like, oh, if I do it by hand, it'll be easier. But yeah, if it takes 15 minutes, I guess I can run it, and then from there, I can do my deeper analysis once I have the data in mind. Okay, cool. No, thanks, Masish, for the heads up on that. All right, guys, market's pretty flat right now. If you guys want to take the entry at 716, it's going to come up pretty soon. Like I said, the 716 entry, it's not necessarily a bad entry. It's just if you're trying to put all your eggs in one basket, like for example, for me, I try to take one entry per day. I don't want to take something that's not consistent, right? Like it's just not consistent enough for me to want to take it. But yeah, since Masij mentioned that the Chrome extension is faster, I might be able to run the 60/40 or the 40/20 and the 60/30 and then put those together in one list and then kind of pick and choose. Because if that's the case and I already know which one's better, I'll just pick one trade from those two lists and then I can adjust my size before market opens. Let's see, there was an MPS V2 which came up over here. So this MPS V2 would have been skipped, guys. Masij was mentioning that, he was kind of curious about like how my discretion works. So the reason why this MPS V2 would have been skipped for me personally is because the candle's too big, right? It's an 80-point candle. So typically, and you guys understand how these red flags work, if you're entering a trade and the candle is bigger than your stop loss, I just wouldn't take that trade because it'll tend to retrace back to the halfway mark, which it's kind of doing right here, and then it came right back up. All right, so this is a 716 entry right here. If you guys are looking to get into it, the candle's going to close in about 20 seconds. This is going to be a buy entry. Obviously not one that I'm looking to take here, but if you guys wanted to take it, this would be an entry here for 716. So I'll follow it for you guys. I'm not going to get into it, of course. It's already linked up right there, so you guys can see. This also had a flickering momentum on it, so it's a little tricky. Flickering momentum was happening right here at 712, 716. So usually if the flickering momentum comes within 3 minutes of the entry candle, we try to skip it because we just don't like those types of entries there, of course. Um, so we'll see. Yeah, Masish said, okay, maybe I can add a setting for candle size to invalidate. Yeah, so basically, I would say if it's a little too big, Masish, so like it doesn't have to be 30 points, but for the most part, like see how this entry over here came up for the 703? See how like if the previous candle here, it's not bigger than the stop loss? Like this here would be perfectly fine. Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you can base it off the ATR, I think that's probably gonna be the best case scenario. Let me see if there's another example over here. Um, so these are good, right? Like look at this. There's a buy signal, retracement, confirmation. So like as long as the previous candle is not bigger than the stop loss, it's okay. But if the candle is bigger than the stop loss, it tends to not be a good entry because there's always retracement on a candle like that, right? The candle's huge. So let me see if there's another example over here. This is from Friday. Okay, so this is an example right here, perfect example. So sell signal, retracement, confirmation right here, right? So the MPSV2 would actually happen right here. See this trade, I would have skipped this trade myself personally because see how this candle's there's so much space here for price to push out. I mean, this is like a tricky entry because what tends to happen is whenever you have a big candle like this, it tends to retrace to either the halfway mark or the entire candle, right? So right here it retraced to the halfway mark, which is right down the middle, and then it ended up coming back down. So this is an example of like one of those trades where you'd maybe second think before taking the entry. Let me see if I could find a big candle here. Okay, so this is an example. I mean, there's no entry here, but see how this candle is huge? Say, for example, you're taking a pivot scalp entry here. I mean, obviously, this is going to meet criteria. This is on January 2nd. Um, let's see. Let's go to like a normal day. But if you guys have been trading with me for a while, you guys understand what I mean by this because this has always been a red flag. Okay, here's another perfect example right here. See, this candle right here is huge. When you have a big candle like this, price will tend to retrace to the halfway mark or the entire candle. So there's two things that typically happen right here. When price drops really big like this, it'll retrace here and then come back down. Or what happens sometimes is price retraces to the entire candle and then comes back down. Or this becomes a full-on reversal, right? So in a situation like this, you just wouldn't want to take a specific entry like that because it's just considered a red flag in a sense because you want to avoid getting caught in the heavy pullback drawdown. So. Yeah, Brock knows. You've been around. You've seen it happen so many times. Again, here's another example. See this big red candle right here? Like I mentioned, whenever you have a big candle like that, price will retrace to the halfway mark or the entire candle. This is just what I've learned over the years, right? Because what happened a lot of times is I would enter a position and then I would just get burnt out of the position because I'm like, oh, I get stopped out, and then it ends up coming right back down. So, anyways, here's the entry at 716, guys. It's currently still running. So if you guys wanted to take this entry here, it's currently running in profit. Let's again look at the criteria. So the 716 has 7% max equity drawdown, 63% weighted or average, overall probability of 55%, buy probability of 71, profit factor of 2.4. So this entry happened right here at 716. As soon as that candle closed, the trade is now currently running in profit and it's on its way up as we speak. And full TP right there. So if you guys caught that, great work. If you guys want to go off the traditional criteria for target entry, this would be the actual only entry for today. because these over here didn't meet the weighted average, right? 758, 759 did not meet the weighted average. All right. So with that being the case, let me update the spreadsheet. Let's refresh this. All right, so for today, there's just one win, which is not too bad. These are no entries. And going back to my game plan, guys, so like what I mentioned before, I'm taking one trade per day, but I'm taking one quality entry per day, right? So let's go back to December real quick, and let's just add up all the entries for December to show you if we took just one entry per day. The thing is, I didn't start to use this criteria until later, right? So like if we were to follow this, so for example here, we're just looking for the first entry right here on December 30th was a win, right? So we're just going to do the math here. Plus 2. On December 4th, this was a loss. So this is -1. On December 5th, this is a win, plus 2. On December 8th, this was a loss, -1. On December 9th, this was a loss, -1. December 10th, this was a win, plus 2. Thursday, this was a loss, -1. December 12th, this was a win, plus 2. December 15th, this was a win, plus 2. December 16th, this was a win, plus 2. December 17th, this was a loss, -1. Thursday, there's a flickering momentum, no trade. 19th, no trade. 22nd, no entry. Tuesday, December 23rd, this was a loss, -1. December 24th, this was a win, plus 2. Friday, this was a loss, -1. And these are all the trades for December, right? So if you just took one trade every day, or not every day, like one trade that would come up, right? This is my game plan, right? To take one entry per day, but one quality entry. If you took every trade in December, this would be a positive R multiple of 7, right? So with that being the case, if I'm doing 10 contracts, 10 times 5 times 30 times 7, this is how much profit would have been made if I just took one trade per day. And this is per account, right? So if I have 20 accounts or 40 accounts or 70 accounts, right? Multiply by 70, it's a lot of profit, right? So that's why I'm just taking one trade per day. I trade with volume. So for me, I don't need to make like a crazy amount of profit. I just need to make consistent profit. And this is what I'm doing for basically for all my entries. So I'm just taking one entry per day. And this is why I'm taking one entry per day. Because if you look at December, I did all the math here for all the documented entries, and I'd be up a 7R. So that's the reason why I'm taking one entry per day, because you can see from the data that if we just take one entry per day, you should end up profitable. There's going to be days where there's losses, there's going to be days where there's wins, but at the end of the month, it should end up with profit. So yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding that, just let me know. That's my game plan. My game plan is one trade per day, one quality entry per day, and that's it. If I win, great. If I lose, great. That's perfectly fine because I know long term I should be able to yield a profit. So that is what I'll be doing. So anyways, here's the trades for this week so far. Or I mean, there's only one trade we took, or one trade that came up. But for me, with my listed entries or target entries, there's just no entry. So I haven't taken anything at all this month. Nothing on Friday. There was no entry the entire day. And then January, same thing. Or today, January 5th, no entries, which I'm okay with, right? If you look over here at 2025, there's going to be periods where there's just no entries, right? Like the earlier part of December, there was entries almost every day. And then towards the end of the month, there's just a lot of no entries. So these over here actually wouldn't have even been taken. I didn't trade on the day before on Christmas Eve. I didn't trade, and then the day after I didn't trade either. But I just documented them so that we have that there. Either way, if these trades were taken or weren't taken, it still would be a an R multiple of 6. Let's see. All right, question from Hunter. So Hunter is asking, why didn't you like the two entries you had marked out? I did like them, but there were no entries for those two, Hunter. So looking over here, those are the two entries that I had marked out at 658. So there was no entry for both of these. Let me explain to you why. So looking at my list of entries over here, 658, which is going to be, and I'll mark them up over here. Okay. So 658 right here, this was with momentum, and we were looking for a sell, right? Over here at 658, there was no sell momentum here, so there was just no entry. So I did like the entries, and I did want to take it, but there just was no entry there for that specific entry that I had marked up. This over here at 716 was supposed to be the entry for today, but because the long-term data here doesn't show that it's really good long-term, I decided not to take it. Right? I didn't not decide to take it. It's just it wasn't part of my target entries for the day. So yeah, I didn't not take these entries at 658. It's just there was no entry there. If this was for a buy, it'd be a different story, right? So at 658, if this was with momentum and we had a buy probability here, then yes, I would have taken the entry there. But because there wasn't, there was just nothing to take there. Although the buys here could have possibly lined up because they're so close in number, right? So the buy probability here is 53%, while the sell probability is 57. But yeah, I mean, if the setup isn't there, I just don't take it. Let's see, question from Hunter. Hunter is asking, what about the long at 705 and 715? Um, which one are you referring? Are you referring to this one right here at 702, Hunter? So this one right here at 702, this was I'm trying to remember what this was. Oh, this was so the 702 entry, that's the one that I had listed over here. It's something that I'm looking at. It's not well, I mean, I probably should have added it to the list, but we talked about this on Friday. So the one at 702, this entry is what I consider a unicorn entry in a sense. If you're not familiar with like that term, what I mean is that like this is an entry that doesn't really show up very often. I've been following it. But the problem with this entry is that the TP stop losses are different. So like we're using a 40, we're using a 60/30, but for this one it's a 40/20. I was kind of just going through the statistics here to see which like if there was an entry that would have like long consistency. But yeah, that entry right here at 640 or sorry, let me see. 640 at 702. The entry would actually happened at 703. Looking at the statistics down here, this is a really good entry in a sense where where it just works long term. So we looked at this on Friday, and then we looked at it today. This just doesn't meet the criteria for the specific 60/30 that we're looking for. So the 60/30 that we're looking for, the criteria is different. This is a 40/20. If you look at the statistics here, this here has a 70% probability overall, whether it's a buy or a sell. Profit factor is 4.4. If you're familiar with profit factor, this is a huge profit factor here, right? Typically, if you have above like a 1.5 up to 2, that's good. But anything above 3 is like amazing. So if you look over here, the profit factor is really high on this specific one. And then same with this one over here. We have a rolling basis with our trade sample. So we go from a 20 trade sample to a 40 to a 60. This will indicate whether the strategy works long term or if it just works for now, right? Right now it's amazing. Like the numbers here look great. It has a 3% max equity drawdown. This means that it only loses once or twice before it goes on to a win streak. So this is good, but then using the other factors here, this is what really sets it apart from other trades because it shows here that, obviously strategies deteriorate over time. This is a 70% probability. It drops down to 55. But when you go to the higher sample size, usually it's supposed to drop down even more. But what happens here, it actually goes up. So it goes from 55 to 60, and the profit factor goes from 2.239 to 2.587. This shows you that, this specific entry at 702 is a really, really good entry long term. The problem with this here, for me specifically, or the reason why I personally wouldn't want to have taken it today specifically, was because the ATR is so high. If you're not familiar with ATR, let's just go back to this specific entry candle. So see, the ATR here is at 42, right? If the ATR is 42, and if you're not familiar with how ATR works, this shows you that the average of each candle is about a 40-point move, right? Or 42-point move. So this is the average size of each candle. And look at the stop loss over here. The stop loss is at 20 points, right? So the reason why this here, I mean, there's different factors of why I would have skipped this, even if it was listed as one of my entries, is the fact that if this was to pull back even just a little bit, like even just we'll say like a micro pullback or anything like that, right? If it would pull back at all, it would stop you out immediately because the stop loss is 20 points and the ATR is 42 points. So if every candle is moving at least 42 points, it could just pull back for a split second, just pull back and then shoot right back up. It'd stop you out. So that's why I'm not going with any smaller or tighter stop losses right now because the ATR is just too high. Typically, I want my stop loss to be close to the ATR as possible. That's why a 30-point stop loss works better than a 20-point right now because if it pulls back at all, you're not going to get stopped out. You're going to be able to survive even just a little pullback before it pushes up back into profit. If that makes sense. If you want me to explain that any deeper, I mean, feel free to let me know. But again, that 702 entry that we were just discussing, I'm going to keep track of this entry because if it works really well like this might be one of the entries that I just might take every single day, right? This just might be the entry to take, whether it's a win or a loss, because the probabilities on this they're just too strong to ignore, right? Like this just shows you, for example, if you took just the 702 entry for 60 trading days, not 60 days, but 60 trading days, because it's one entry per day, you'd have a 90% gain. That's a huge gain right there, right? This is risking 2% to make 4% per day. So if that's the case right there, the R multiple on this would be, so we would do 90 divided by 4. This has a 22.5 R multiple. That's really high, right? That's super high. R multiple of 22.5. If you just took this entry every single day, you ate the losses when it happened, but you ate the wins when it happened as well. This is a really, really good entry to follow. So just keep that in mind. iPhone is asking, is that a pre-market entry? No, 702 is market's already open. Yeah, because market opens at 6:30, so 702 would be mid-market basically after the first 30 minutes. All right, so like I said, I'll keep following that. I'll try to incorporate that. Right now, I'm still looking for like the best possible entry, but for the most part, if you guys want to just take a lot of these over here, this I mean, this would be a good one to just take and not even have to. Well, I mean, you just have to worry about drawdown, but it's the thing is you're gonna recoup a lot of these profits before you go into drawdown. So for example, here this had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have an 8 win streak right here. So an 8 win streak and then having a couple losses here is not gonna really affect your account too much. All right, so anyways, back to what we are saying over here. So that's pretty much it for the most part right now. We already talked about 716, so that's the other entry which came up. It didn't meet the criteria for listed entries, so that's not one that we took. The next entry right here is going to be against momentum at 740. So if you guys want to take this next entry right here, this is a listed entry, but it's not a target entry. Yeah, so if you guys want to jump into this position here, I mean, feel free. Like I mentioned, we don't take the against momentum trades, but with this type of market that we currently have right now, these against momentums, as long as they're for a buy, I think they could be good. The numbers here are actually pretty decent too at the 740. So it's against momentum, has a max equity drawdown of 5%. It has overall probability of 50%, weighted average of 55, buy percentage of 60. Sell percentage of 40, profit factor is 1.9. It's not above 2, but I mean, it's still pretty decent overall. So if you guys want to take that, I'll follow it for you guys here. In order for that to come up, you would just have to you'd have to make sure there's no buy signal here, which follows through. But we'll see. It's going to come up shortly in about 3 minutes. Let's see. CJ said 702 is described as a unicorn by Sean, but a Demogorgon by me. I know. So CJ has a love-hate relationship with 702. 702 is actually one of the first entries that we took, right? If you guys remember. So it's not on the spreadsheet because it was one of the earlier entries, but I mean it was listed here. So the 702 entry has been coming up for a long time. You can see over here, it had a 100% win ratio for a while for buys. Yeah. There's actually a lot of 100% win ratios right here for buy or for these specific entries, 653, 702. Yeah, there's a ton of entries there. So the 702 was an entry which came up a lot earlier in November. This is where it started to slow down a bit, but it did start going on a losing streak. See, like right here. So in October, it was actually really good. If you guys remember, we had the 702 entry in October. That's where we had one of our biggest months ever. Um, but November here was just, it wasn't hitting at all. It was just back-to-back losses around those points. Yeah, because there's a lot of losses here. I mean, there's not a, I mean, there's wins and there's losses, but for the most part, there was a lot of losses at 702. So basically, for the first 2 weeks of November, it was just a bunch of losses for 702, and it wasn't even on the list anymore. So that's another reason why the 702 isn't like a staple for me. The numbers look great, but it's not a staple for me because of obvious reasons. All right, so entries coming up right here at 716. If you guys are looking to take it, it's gonna or 740, it's gonna come up in about a minute. Let's see, Hunter is asking, curious why you don't have your EMA trades built into your indicator. Um, well, what do you mean by that, Hunter? We don't have EMA trades. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. These are pivots right here. I mean, they look like moving averages because they're like, but there's like different criteria that are built into. I mean, anything that has lines, they look like moving averages, right? That's just how lines work. Like even if you had a VWAP on here, if I didn't tell you it was a VWAP, you'd think it was a moving average, right? Because anything with a line there, it's just it looks like a moving average, but it's the pivots are they're not meant to be used as EMAs. They're meant to for their specific name pivots because you're looking for price to kind of pivot across from them. So price comes, bounces off the pivot, shoots back up. They're kind of a conjunction of like I guess pivot points in a sense, but pivot points are like set specific levels, while the EMAs, or not EMAs, but the pivots in the sense, they are they're what is the word for it? They're they're active. Like if you're using just normal pivot points, they're usually levels that are just kind of listed around where you're looking for price to kind of bounce off them. But for the pivots here, they move with price. I forget what the name is. I used to there was a specific word that I would use or name that I'd use because they're reactive to price. All right, guys. So here's the entry right here at 740. It's currently running in profit right now. Here, let me put the criteria over here so we can kind of look at it. Uh, but let's just look at the statistics here. I mean, the trade's currently running right now. This is against momentum. I'm updating it so that you guys can see on the chart. All right, so the long position is right there. It is currently running. And I was accidentally clicked that button. So let's just see what this trade looks like. Typically the against momentum trades are not going to show good consistency long term because they're just reversal trades. They're not necessarily trades that tend to happen consistently over time. But let's take a look at it anyways. Okay. So this looks like a pretty average curve. So basically for this entry here at 740, it has a 50% probability on the 20 trade sample, 1.9 profit factor. Then it drops down to 1.8 as a 47% probability, and then drops down to 40%, 1.3. So this is one of the against the momentum trade that's actually consistent. So it looks like at 740, this tends to reverse pretty often. Not a lot, but for the most part, pretty often. You can see there's some drawdown period over here between October up until November 13, and then it goes right back up. So this is actually one of those against momentums that's actually consistent on a long-term scale. Hey, future. Yeah, no, definitely. Good to see you here too. Happy New Year's. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully this year is just as good as last year, if not better. I mean, it should be better, honestly. It should be better in a sense. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time for us to get going. I was hoping to have a trade last Friday. There was no entries for me. And then again for today, there's no entries aside from the 716, which was listed, but um I decided to go with the 658 instead because of the specific criteria. I'm going for the safer trades for the most part. Let's see. Hunter said he used to trade off EMAs for longs and shorts. You had to go to success with it, but don't see you trade it or use. Um, not sure which one. So you might be talking about the pivot scalp entry, Hunter. I'm not sure because we've never used EMAs before. We've always used the pivots. All the indicators that I use are the ones that I've created. So I've never used EMAs. I mean, I've been trading live with you guys for like I think 8 years now. Over 8 years. I don't think we've ever used EMAs. I don't. Does anybody remember me using EMAs in the past? CJ, do you remember? Yeah, Paul doesn't remember because I've never used EMAs. So I don't know if you're confusing the EMAs with the pivots. That might be the case, Hunter. You might be if you're talking about these lines right here, these are the pivots. So I created this pivot indicator like 10 years ago. I've been using this only. I don't use EMAs or moving averages or anything like that. EMAs, regular moving averages. I've always used these pivots here. So you might be confusing the EMAs with these pivots. And I think the strategy, if you're talking about that, the strategy you're talking about is going to be the pivot scalp, right? That's this strategy right here. So like basically when price pushes up, retraces, and then you have the buy signal right there, that would be a pivot scalp entry, right? Strategy still works perfectly fine. I just don't use those specific strategies for myself anymore because we're basing all of my entries off the algorithm now. So like the algorithm is based like strictly off the momentum signals and momentum push in market. And this is giving us more accuracy with entries. But if you want to use that strategy, which is called the pivot scalp, you can still use it. I mean, you can see here the strategy still works perfectly fine. It's just not the one that I'm personally using. So again, looking at this entry over here, this 740 entry would have lined up with that pivot scalp that you just mentioned, right? Or that we're talking about. So like, for example, here, this is a price pushed up, retrace. There's a buy signal right there. You would enter off that and you would let it run. The main reason why I don't like taking the pivot scalp alone is because when you have the momentum here, so like whenever you're looking to take that pivot scalp entry, you're looking for the momentum signal to close, right? So the problem with the pivot scalp when you're waiting for it to close is that it doesn't always close sometimes, right? Like sometimes you'll have it come up and it'll just flicker, sometimes it'll turn on, sometimes turn off. And what would happen a lot of times in the past is I would try to get into a position And then I would get into it incorrectly, right? You guys have seen that happen sometimes where we're waiting for the momentum signal to close, but then at the last second it disappears. And then you're in the position ready and you're like panicking because you're like, oh, this shouldn't have been an entry. But you ended up getting into it because you thought the candle was going to close with the momentum signal. So. Yes. So Hunter said yes, pivot scalps. I see why you want to track it more, which is why you're sticking to the algo. Yeah, exactly. So now, Hunter, the way that we're doing it and that I'm doing it is that I'm basing it all off statistics now, right? So, if you've been around for a while, so you remember the pivot scalp strategy. The pivot scalp strategy is good, but it's tricky because like I mentioned the main I try to move away from those strategies because it looks good from afar, right? Because like obviously this looks good, but this could have been an entry that you could have accidentally got into that wasn't there, because I'm sure this right here was flickering with a buy signal, didn't close, and then this one ended up closing. Not to say that it's not a good strategy, but it's just a little more riskier because you don't have it set in place. If you want to apply a strategy that's very similar to the pivot scalp but a little more in a sense, I guess more structured, you can apply the MPSV2. So we actually have statistics on the MPSV2 here, thanks to Masij. Masij put together the statistics for us. Um, so this right here is the MPSV2. It's very similar in strategy. The only difference is that instead of getting in when you get the momentum signal, you're looking for retracement and then confirmation. So for example, here, price pushes up. Your entry could have happened here, but you would have just waited for this retracement and then confirmation of this candle. So we actually do have the statistics for this specific entry, um, which is similar to the pivot scalp, and it shows that in a long-term scale, this strategy works very well, right? Using a sample size of 1,139 trades, it has a profitability and win ratio of 37.58. This is extremely good for a 1 to 2 risk reward strategy because in order for you to be profitable, you just need above 33%. And the statistics here work very well, right? If you were to look at this on a smaller scale, like say you just wanted to see how it worked for the past year, we can update it to just a year of data, 365 days. And as it updates right here, you'll see the numbers here increase quite a bit, right? Out of 384 trades, this has a max equity drawdown of 0.88%. So this strategy only goes into drawdown, maybe one loss. Um, the profitability here is 41%, or the probability, and has a profit factor of 1.28. So over a year period, the strategy is profitable. And if you look at my other strategies, these are all going to be very similar, right? If you look at the breakout V3, very similar as well. If you look at the pivot scalp, these are all based off momentum and trend. So it's not going to make a big difference. You're going to see a lot of the similar probabilities across the board. So again, if you guys are new here or if you guys have been here for a while, if you look at any of my strategies over here, they're all going to have profitability long term. You just have to pick one, right? Because again, looking at my statistics over here, so look at the MPS V2 and then compare it to the breakout V3. It's very similar in a sense with regard to entry probability, right? So, I mean, there's going to be some entries that are going to come up more often than others. Like this breakout V3 actually comes up more. This has 418 trades, while the MPS V2 only has 384. But you'll see that they're all profitable long term. So this has, it shows that it still makes profit if you took a trade every day for the year. And same with the breakout V3. And then possibly in the future, I'll try to I don't know, is Masij still here? Yeah, so possibly Masij. I'll give him like more criteria for like other for the other strategies. So like this here is good because we know that it's profitable. The big difference here is now the discretion, right? Because we can go from a 41% to maybe a 50% or even higher if we include my discretion, which is to avoid red flags like I mentioned earlier, the big candles and then news price and then opening price and then sessions. The back test is good just to show you that it's profitable, and then from there you start to dial in to make things better and stronger in a sense. Yeah, if you guys want access to it, I think Masih just wants you guys to message him on the Discord. It's probably easier for me to get access to you guys. So yeah, Daniel and whoever else needs access to it. Mendez. I just message in the premium chat right here. Here, I'll just tag you guys in here. And then you can talk to Masish. Yeah, it's easier for you to message him on Discord because then he'll know exactly what to give access to. But yeah, so these backtest these backtest scripts, they're not meant to really give you a deep insight on the strategy. This is just to show you that like, okay, the strategy is profitable. Now it's going to be your responsibility to execute it properly, right? And all these strategies are based off the same criteria. It's based off trend and momentum, so they're all going to have profitability to some extent. So, all right, yeah. If there's anything else here, see if there's anything else to look at. Yeah, I just saw your message earlier, CJ. So CJ said, yeah, the 702 used to always hit, but our Ninja Trader would disconnect. My Zoom would go out, random things would fall off my counter, and I just had to let it go. Yeah, I know that my Ninja Trader still does that. But actually, I did that today too. I think when the entry came up at 702, you heard the disconnect or whatever. Um, but yeah, I mean, so going back to what we were talking about earlier, guys, I think the best game plan is really just focus on one quality entry per day. If you guys can do that and focus on one quality entry per day, you guys should be profitable at the end of each month. I mean, I've had a pretty rocky December and November because I've just been trying to figure out the system and understand like what works best. But what I've started to figure out and what I've started to realize is that yeah, one trade per day is the best option because again, right here. So let me show you. So my game plan is one quality entry per day. Win or loss or no entry, done for the day, right? And using this as an example, so this is what I want to show you guys. Like the example for this here is we'll just go like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Right here, I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna show you guys different examples of like this is basically my game plan for the day. And here is a couple examples, right? So example one is, now I'll give you guys a couple different examples here. So example one, Monday, we'll say no trade, win plus 2R, loss negative 1R, total one win, one loss. See, this is example one. Say, for example, we have no trade on Monday, win on Tuesday, loss on Wednesday. So here we could have a one win, one loss, and still be in profit for the end of the week, right? Here's example two. Say, for example, two, we have a trade every single day. And if you want to take a trade every single day, feel free, right? Just pick one off the list. You don't have to skip any entries. For me, I'd rather just skip and have no trade than to have a loss, right? We'll say win 2R, win plus 2R, and then the rest are just losses, right? So here's another example of just taking one trade per day, right? You win Monday, win Tuesday, loss Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're still in profit for the end of the week. So this is like if you took a trade every single day, this is what it would look like. And here's another example, example three. And ideally, this is my type of this is my like what I'm aiming for, right? Like no trade. See, if you're able, like, this is an example of like showing you that less is better, right? Because, like, for example, if I have no trade today, no trade tomorrow, I had a win on Wednesday, win on Thursday, no trade on Friday, I'd be at 4R. So, like, for example, if you took every trade every single day, you'd have more trades, but you'd still be at 1R. For example, here, if you're like on the hybrid side where you're like, okay, I'll take some trades certain days, like no trade on Monday, no trade on Friday, but you take every trade every other day, you'd still be at 1R. But if you're able to really control your drawdown, right? If you just have no trades for certain days and you just have two wins or one win, you'd be up 2 or 4R, which is great, right? That's where you want to be. So this is typically my game plan. I don't care if I don't have a lot of trades, but if I have wins that start to stack up and have minimal losses, I'll be in profit long term. Yeah, exactly. Masij said, yeah, you should never have a drawdown week if you do one entry, maybe some break even. Exactly. Because you could have a couple mistakes or you could have a couple losses, but you're gonna have one or two wins to bounce back from it. You just need two wins really to break a profit. All right, guys. I just realized it's about to be 8 o'clock. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to hop into the chat. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this up. Unfortunately, but fortunately, no trades for today. Here's my algo history. So yeah, there's just nothing for today. This trade at 740 is still running. Not in the position, but it's still running. This thing is running for a pretty long time. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap this up pretty soon. I just don't see anything here right now. Yeah, this trade runs for a long time. You can see over here, losing trades run for about 23 minutes. Winning trades run for about 10 minutes. So at this point, I probably would close out for a partial profit. Because if it runs for too long, it's likely to just lose for the most part. So yeah, exactly. Masij said, yeah, if you get two wins, I would stop for the week. Yeah, I agree with you, Masij. I think that's going to be the game plan, right? If we have two wins for this week, just wrap it up and then come back the next week because you basically guarantee profit at that point. And a 4R is good, right? Versus a 1R. So, all right, guys, I think that might be it. It's about to be 8 o'clock. If you guys have any questions, feel free to here, let's see, one question from Hunter. Hunter said, what is your general risk per trade profit you're targeting, like 1 minute YM contract risk? So I'm doing 10 contracts. So from and everybody's going to be different, right? It's all 1 to 2. So yes, your breakdown of it, risking 500 to 1,000. Ideally, that's going to be what it's worth. For me personally, I'm doing 10 contracts, so 10 times 5 times 30. I'm risking 1,500 to make 3,000. That's because I'm doing 10 contracts. But if you're doing smaller contract size, if you're doing one contract, the smallest, 1 times 5 times 30, you'll risk 150 to make 300. So. Yeah, Hunter, all my trades are 1 to 2 risk to reward. So if you're risking 500 to make, you'd make 1,000. If you're risking 700, you make 1,400. If you're risking 1,500, you make 3,000. That's my general uh risk to reward per trade. Um, but all right, guys, I think that's it for the day. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up. Otherwise, no entries for the day. I'd rather have no entries than losses, of course. So I'm okay with this, and we're going to continue on with this trading week. Hopefully, the rest of this week's going to be a lot smoother. I was going to be a little more cautious today, anyways, because of what happened with Venezuela. But for the most part, I think that is it's going to be it. So, all right, guys, if there's any other questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord. Otherwise, I will see you guys back here tomorrow.